In 1973, a powerful protest unfolded at Wounded Knee, South Dakota. This major town soon became the center of a major stand for Native American rights. Yet despite the large scale of this protest, it has very rarely ever been discussed in the media, schools, or history books. You may have possibly heard of the Wounded Knee Massacre, which occurred in 1890. The U.S. Army killed about 150 to 200 Lakota men, women, and children near Wounded Knee Creek. The massacre marked the end of the Indian Wars and has been remembered as a dark memory in U.S. history towards Native Americans. 83 years later, the American Indian Movement, known as AIM, began to protest corruption in the tribal government, including broken treaties, poor living conditions, and the U.S. government's mistreatment of indigenous people. AIM was founded in 1968 as a grassroots organization to advocate for Native American rights. The organization was made up of members from various tribes who came together to address issues such as police brutality, poverty, and a lack of educational opportunities for Native Americans. AIM is still around today, although it has branched into smaller subsections as it has received major government pushback. The cause of the Wounded Knee occupation is often overlooked and misrepresented. In the 1970s, many Native Americans in the Pine Ridge Reservation were living in severe poverty while under the rule of Dick Wilson, the tribal chairman, who had been abusing his power and neglecting the tribal needs. Tribal members reached out to the federal government for help, but once their request was ignored, AIM activists joined in to help. The protest turned into a 71-day standoff between the protesters and federal agents such as U.S. Marshals and the FBI. The standoff ended in May of 1973 after 2 Native American activists were killed. USMarshals.org wrote that the occupation was an armed insurrection and civil disorder rather than a peaceful protest. The government stated that their involvement was to restore order and peace, the Pine Ridge Reservation. However, primary sources such as Owen Luck, a freelance photojournalist who was present at the occupation, has violent pictures of federal agents with armored vehicles blocking roads in the reservation and using heavy weaponry. The Nixon administration described AIM as a radicalist group and continued to neglect their requests to investigate treaty violations or corruption under the chairman. The government's portrayal of the occupation led media outlets such as NBC to frame the protests as a security crisis to the public and an act of civil disobedience, even though it stayed within the Pine Ridge Reservation. In an interview by NBC at the time of the occupation with a member of the movement, Russell Means, who quotes, "We're the original landowners. We are the sovereign native people of this Western Hemisphere. We are throwing our lives on the line to get the white man to look and listen." Native Americans were begging and pleading for someone to listen and understand the issues they were facing on their reservation, yet media outlets continued to hide the occupation, and when it was mentioned very vaguely. NBC reporter Fred Briggs finished the interview by classifying the occupation as Indian problems, as he says, "What the Indians wanted now was some sort of an official sign from some government personage that he is interested in, and he is interested in taking with them about the Indian problems." The Wounded Knee occupation of 1973 was not an act of rebellion, but instead a demand for their voices and needs to be heard. The protests at Wounded Knee were fighting for recognition, justice, and respect that had been denied for generations.